Hi, I'm Cassandra from the Oxford Weaving Studio, and thanks for taking the time to watch my latest studio vlog. Now, in today's vlog, we're actually catching up on quite a lot because if you've been following my YouTube channel for a little while, you'll know I haven't uploaded any new videos in such a long time. Now, I kept promising that I was going to be uploading new videos, new techniques, talking about lots of different stuff. But as you can imagine, as being a one-woman small business, it's incredibly difficult to keep everything going while you're having to be locked down several times, juggling homeschooling. I have 2 boys at home here in Oxford, and you know, anybody who's been doing anything related to sort of homeschooling or working remotely from home, trying to balance home life, work life, I think you get the picture. It's been really tough. But the things that I wanted to share today were actually things that I have been able to do this past year. One of the ones that I'm most proud of is really launching the YouTube channel. And that's because I'm so keen on teaching people to weave. The Oxford Weaving Studio is really all about that. Essentially, I am a textile designer and hand weaver. I've been trained at Central St. Martin's, and I graduated over 10 years ago. And in that time, I have been weaving and selling my designs through trade fairs to private clients, working with design professionals, designing and hand weaving different types of hand woven textiles. But that was a really lovely part of my business, but ultimately I actually really love the learning process of weaving because I did it as an adult. I was studying engineering when I was a kid, and I worked in recruitment, so HR, and I worked in all kinds of different areas before I found weaving. And I worked out that actually, as a mature student studying textiles, I took on board a lot more of the technical knowledge. I understood the processes, the learning process of how to understand weaving. And I have been doing this for 10 years now, and worked out several years ago now that I love teaching others how to weave. And I think the way that I weave and my passion for materials and exploring new techniques and combining them on the loom has meant that I've tried lots of different things. So I love sharing that knowledge with people so that they too can kind of find their style of weaving. So that's just sort of what I'm about and what I've been trying to do with the Oxford Weaving Studio. And really the YouTube videos and tutorials is something that I would really like to continue, but I just haven't had the time and focus to create a proper structure around what I can do with the videos. But I'm pleased to say that I'm really close to having a much more structured, output for my videos. So I have a number of videos that I'm going to be uploading over the next couple of months. A lot of them will focus around techniques. I'll start to be talking to you a little bit more about understanding weaving in terms of not just the techniques, but the looms, the equipment. It's very confusing for new beginners, especially when you see lots of things on Instagram out there, you know, some lovely things. You wonder, well, how do I do that? I want to weave in circles. Well, that's, you know, it's not clear to me what the next steps are. Or maybe I really like fine, delicate, cloth, but can I weave that on a frame loom? Or, you know, maybe you work with really chunky stuff and say, well, can I do that on a floor loom? So there are so many things for you to learn as a beginner weaver that really I have so much experience in working with all these things that I'm so excited to share that with you. So that will be coming over the next couple of months. I did want to talk briefly about the stuff that I've been doing in this past year and what I've personally been developing. I think like a lot of people, it became a struggle to continue doing what you were doing in the same format. So for me, it was really important to push my own skill sets, doing something that I love doing, and just kind of forget about all the chaos that's been going on, you know, the struggles my small business has had, and just finding ways to keep myself motivated. So one of the big things that came out of lockdown was actually learning to spin. So I'm really super chuffed at a new skill, not just because, you know, I've created some really gorgeous, you know, chunky yarns in some fantastic colorways. They're super soft and fluffy. Anybody's a spinner out there. I'm not yet an expert spinner, but I think I'm getting there, you know, and I'm really loving the process. So that's one aspect. It's a new skill, and yes, it's great. The outcome is fabulous. However, what I'm even more pleased about is that I managed to start to get rid of almost 4 massive garbage bags, or rubbish bags as we say here in the UK, filled with fibres. So you can see that I work with wool roving. So anybody who's not familiar with that fibre, this merino wool is super chunky, and I break it down and I make different products with it. But I end up with lots and lots of scrap. So it was my mission this year to finally get to grips with all that scrap that I've got. And really, I wanted to make sure that I had everything ready for me to kind of get rid of this waste yarn. So the biggest one is I've been learning to spin with it. The other thing I've been doing is just adapting my design. So looking at all the little scrap pieces I have. And so this is a cushion I wove. It was one of my first sort of test pieces to see what some of my hand spun would look like with some of my scrap yarns, and just discovering ways that I can use up my waste material. So that's been something that I've been sort of feeling really pleased about over the past year, really developing that side of my work. One of the other things that I've been doing is, so those of you who again haven't come to my website and haven't seen the kind of products that I sell and what I do sort of with the Oxford Weaving Studios, I sell products. So I designed my hand looms years ago, but last year I launched my new rainbow looms, and actually this was an acrylic laser cut frame loom. Of course, many of you have seen these before. This is not new so much as I've used acrylic so that they can be washed, so you can use them in COVID. I teach, and I was teaching children at the time, and as part of our workshops we work on these fabulous looms. But I was worried that, you know, before we knew everything about COVID and whether it was you could get COVID through contact, I had said, well, I need a washable loom, because my solid wood looms that I design are just, they can't be washed, they're untreated, you know, they're natural wood. And so I was worried that I wouldn't be able to continue teaching. So I designed these small frame looms. They're designed again with my standard spacing. So I'm a hand weaver. Everything is set up so that you could actually weave really fine cloth. You could weave something up to 16 ends per inch. And if you're not a trained weaver, you might not understand what that means. So if you've only been dabbling and you work on tapestries and you have a wider set, wide spacing between each of your warp threads, that's typically what people are familiar with, but you can weave much finer on frame looms. So that's what I was doing last year, launching these rainbow kits. And then of course, I've been working on all the yarn packs to go with them. So, you know, everybody has a need for yarn when they're starting out. You might have stashes on your own, but I have different size packs. So that's taken me forever, because everything is done by hand, and I prepare each pack, wind the little tapestry bundles, the skeins, each of the little bundles. Each of these is done by hand. I don't have help. I'm a one-woman studio, as I've said many times. So it all takes time. And I've been working on my packaging, you know, looking at all the little details, trying to get recyclable packaging. That's also important. So things that are compostable, sustainable, trying to find all those solutions as best I can has been also a driving force for me behind the scenes this past year. Now, there are so many things I want to be talking to you about, but I wanted to keep it a bit briefer, because the main exciting part of today's video is really all about my new loom design. So I've actually got the older design. Let me go grab that. So if you've been watching my videos in the past, you will have noticed that I weave on our frame looms. No, cheese. I designed our frame looms again, maybe about three and a half years ago. At the time, there weren't very many options here in the UK on weaving on a frame loom that was affordable. There was really only one design out there that I thought was comparable. And the downside of that design was that it didn't break down completely, and the spacing. So this is the most important thing for my loom design, and for me personally, is that I needed a loom that I could travel with, that was set up the same way as my floor looms. And I'll give you guys a studio tour the next time when I show you all my looms. But the floor loom has, and the way I design most of my products, is that the spacing is much narrower. Now that's not possible on the commercial looms that I found 3 years ago. So I said, hey, I should be able to design a loom that works for me. And in the process, I made the spacing so that your loom could be set up wide at 2 or 4 ends per inch. So 2 or 4 warp threads per inch, or even finer at 8 or 16. And that sounds crazy if you're on a frame loom, but actually it's totally doable. And for any practiced weaver, you know, patience is a virtue. So you can get through anything if you're a true weaver. But over time, I've been teaching on this loom and selling these looms as part of my workshops. But the downside is that I've worked out there are many of the designs that I still weave on my floor and hand looms that can't be done even on my own loom. So I needed to find a solution to that. So I'm really excited to introduce my newly designed, I'm going to call it the Oxford Loom. And I'm going to have it available in 2 sizes. Now, the amazing thing about this loom is it has still the same setup, the spacing that you have on the original design. However, there's so many great features, but the main one is it has those features on both sides of loom. So it's a double-sided loom. You have notches on the front, and you can't see it down here. And I'll be sharing another video where I go through each of these step by step. But if you can just make out, there's notches here on the bottom, but on both sides. So the front and the back, you have a double-sided handlebar, double-sided loom. And the beauty of that is that it opens up a whole world of possibilities that if for a tapestry weaver, if you've cracked that and you're sick of doing wall hangings, you can start to do a lot of really cool things. So one, for example, this is a scarf I've been weaving. So you can actually use the notches, you rotate your handlebars by removing them from the frame, and you can wind on a 2-meter length warp, which you can't really do with most frame looms. I've tried, and that's because you don't have the depth of notches. So basically when you wrap your yarn around it, it becomes so thick and bulky that you no longer can keep the tension. But you can do that with these looms. Now, it's not like a hand loom. You can't compare it. It's a different product, but it is a very good way of creating your first few projects and really getting to grips with techniques and understanding it without forking out hundreds of pounds or thousands just to create a scarf. So you can do that for a much more affordable price. The other thing is you can see here that we've got little gaps, little routed gaps that will help you with tension. So not just the tension of, one of your looms, one of your warp projects, but you can also add in a second handlebar to add in an extra warp. So this is like experienced weavers. These are extra things that you can do with this loom. But the sliding up and down really makes it a great feature. You can also reposition your handlebar to a much smaller size, so you can lower it right to the bottom, which means if you're just doing a quick tester, you just want to check out your warp versus weft yarns to see if the colors work, you just want to do a quick setup, you don't have to set the full size of your loom up and waste all that yarn, because ultimately, I'm all about saving time, saving money, saving, materials, because I hate waste. So you can actually make a smaller piece, and then you can say, okay, yeah, I love the designs and colors now I'll set up the full piece and we're ready to go. So I'll go into all the great features of this loom, but essentially it's hardwood. It's got 2 sides of the handlebar. It's double-sided handlebar, helps you to create longer projects. You can create wider projects. So anybody who understands double cloth, it's another advanced technique, but it's essentially weaving 2 cloths at the same time. So you can either have a layer at the front, a layer at the back, or interchange and create a combined one. So that is a really amazing thing, and that opens you up to creating like lavender sachets, pouches, bags, all sorts of things. So it's really cool that you can do that. And one of the other things that I brought specifically today is, if you can see my rainbow lampshade over here. So I design all my lampshades on my floor and hand looms, and that's because it's set up a very specific way that you couldn't do that before. But now I can teach you, I can do workshops on this, on how to create a lampshade. So if you've ever wanted to hand weave your own lampshade, either in sort of the style that I do or a more smooth classic line, I'll be doing workshops on how to set up and weave a lampshade and then put the lampshade together so that you can create your own hand-woven lampshades at home. So there are just really so many advantages to this loom, and I will be using these looms in the future. Now I only have the small one to show you at the moment. I've got a prototype, and that's the one that you've seen there, and I'll be going through again a video on showing you all the features. But I also am designing a larger one, which will be, I think, 56 by 56, so square size. It's very deliberate. Everything has been designed by me within an inch, because I really, as an engineer, you know, now turned textile designer, everything is important to have the details. So the larger version will be great for cushions. So for example, I do a cushion workshop here in my studio, and this is one of the cushions actually that we wove. Which way is it? Which we wove in our workshop last year, and you can see that the spacing is done actually on the larger loom. So I'll be showing you and running workshops and kits actually on how to create your own. So you know, we can also be doing cushions on the larger loom, and again, larger lampshades. So on the small loom you could do small perfect ones for like bedside table, but on the larger loom it opens up even more possibilities. So that's it from me for today. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm really so thankful for all the people who have already joined me. I can't believe there's over 1,000 of you, and I've only uploaded like 5-6 videos. But I can see that the content has obviously struck a nerve. I think a couple of videos really resonated with you. You really love the how to set up a frame loom, and also how to set up a circular loom. So those are 2 videos that I'm going to definitely be progressing with, showing you loads of techniques that may be out there, but the video quality isn't good, or the instructions aren't good. I like to give you the why, not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it, so you can understand when you make mistakes what the mistake is, because obviously not everybody could visit me here in the studio in Oxford. So if you can't, and many of you are American, so thank you for following, but for all my American and Canadian followers and people from abroad, really, I like to give you more information. I want you to understand why you do things in weaving, because it's so important. The why is the answer to everything. So keep following along, subscribe to my channel. I will be getting to grips with all this, the content. It's so time consuming, as again, I say it all the time, a single business, single woman running a small business, but I love it. And if you're patient with me, I will deliver. And if you need to check anything out, what I'm up to, you want to buy my products, you want to, keep abreast of what's happening with the Oxford Loom. The launch will be very, very soon, but I'm telling my email subscribers first. So please sign up for my email subscription. You can find my website at oxfordweavingstudio.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Oxford Weaving Studio. Just type those words in, you'll find me. It's pretty straightforward, but thank you so much for taking the time today to listen right to the end, all my news, and I'll be in touch very soon. Thanks again. Cheers.